Okay, so today we are talking about different types of transformations. Transformations are when we just take a shape and we move it or adjust it in some way. So the first type we're going to talk about are translations. So translations are just when we move it. So they're the same orientation, they're the same size. We're just going to slide them over. So we start with the letter that's by itself, and we always move to the one that has a tick mark. On my screen it'll be, we go from black to blue, but on the papers it's usually black and white, so just look for the tick marks to know where we're going. So I want to figure out how we get from this B to the B with a tick mark. So I see that I need to move over 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to the left and down 2 spaces. So a couple ways I can do this. I can draw arrows. So to the left 4, down 2. I can write it out. Left 4, down 2. Or you can write it kind of like an ordered pair. So since I'm moving to the left, it would be -4, -2. Okay, for this next one, before we move on, and this is true for every point. So for A, I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and down 2, and I land on A prime. For C, I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, down 2, and I land on C prime. Okay, now I can move over to this one. So now I'm going from this H to H prime. I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1. So you can write that as right 4, up 1, right 4, up 1, or 4, 1. Okay, whichever ways you want to write these is okay. Okay, so now I give you the original image and the picture, and we're going to practice drawing this. So do this on your own sheet as well. So for here I need to go 1 unit left and 2 units up. So I'm going to start at this W, go 1 unit to the left, 2 units up, make my mark, and we call this W prime, so with a little tick mark. Then with the V, 1 unit left, 2 units up. This becomes V prime. And X, 1 unit left, 2 units up, X prime. We connect our points, and we have our translated triangle. Okay, go ahead and try this next one on your own, and then once you're ready, go ahead and press play and check your answer. Okay, so for this one we're going 2 units right and 2 units up. So you've got X prime, Y prime, and W prime. Connect these, and there we go. So those are translations. Okay, next we have reflections. So in describing reflections, we want to know what the line of reflection is. So reflections are just like in a mirror where things are reflected back at you. So here our line of reflection is right here. Okay, if I were to put a mirror right here, face it towards here, it would map out like this reflected figure. The name of this line is the x-axis. So it's just, we say it's reflected about the x-axis. Okay, that's when it's flipped from top to bottom or bottom to top. For this one, ooh, that was a messy line. Let's try that again. Okay, it is reflected here about the y-axis, so it's flipped from side to side. So we call this reflected about the y-axis. Okay, I always find it helpful to trace the line of reflection, especially when we move on to doing these, where we are actually reflecting them. So the first thing, this is reflecting about the y-axis. Now a lot of people think, oh, y-axis is vertical, I want to move it up here. That's not the case. We're going to draw our line on the y-axis, and so it needs to be reflected over this line, so our shape's going to end up over here. So when I look at the original point S, it's 2 over from the line, so I'm going to go 2 over this way. That's my S prime. R is 5 over, so I'm going to go 5 over the other way for R prime, and then T is 2 over So they're the same height, they're just going the other way. And that is my reflection. For this one, we're reflecting across the x-axis. So that's this one right here, so it's going to flip from the top to the bottom. T is just 1 point away, so that's going to be my T prime. S is 3 points away, so S prime. And R is 4 units away. So R prime is going to be over here, and connect the dots. So that's how we do reflections. Technically, you can reflect across different lines. You could reflect it diagonally, but for today, we're just going to worry about X and Y axis reflections. Okay, describing a rotation. So for rotations, we're either going to be rotating them 90 degrees or 180 degrees. The way we figure this out is we always start by putting a dot in the origin. All of our lines need to pass through the origin. Now I want to go from this Q to the there. Okay. Let me see if there's an easier way to do this. Not really. You're just stuck with my poor drawings. Okay. So you go from the Q to the origin to Q prime. Okay. And if this were straighter, this would be 180 degrees. So this rotation would be 180 degrees. For this part, once again, put our circle in the origin. We're going to measure E. So you go from the original E to the origin, then from the origin to the reflection. And this is a right angle, so we're going to call this a 90-degree rotation. Okay, now we need to rotate it. So there's two ways you can do it with the lines. That tends to get a little messy. So my preferred way when we're rotating 180 degrees is to write the ordered pairs. So for M, my ordered pair would be -3, +2. And to figure out what the reflected point is, you're going to change the signs. So I'm going to change this to a +3, -2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And that's going to be my new point. Okay. J is at -4, 0. So to figure out my other J, I'm going to change that to +4. 0 isn't positive or negative, so it just stays the same. So there is my J prime. And I forgot to label this one M prime. Okay. Next, I've got L, which is -4, 3. So I'm going to change that over to +4, -3. So +4, -1, 2, 3. That's L prime. And then finally K is -5, +3. Which will change to +5, -3, which is right here. So when I connect those, my shape has been reflected. And you can test this out by drawing your lines through the origin, but once again, that's a little messy, so we're going to pass on that. Okay. So now, go ahead and try rotating this one about the origin, 180 degrees, and then when you're ready, press play. Okay, so I is at 1, 1, so I'm going to go to -1, -1. That's going to be my I prime. H is at 1, -4, so I'm going to go to -1, +4. That's my H prime. And then J is at 4, -1, so I'm going to go to -4, +1. Put J. So all we're doing is flipping the signs for your ordered pairs. And there is your reflected triangle. Okay. The last part we're going to talk about is describing dilation. So once again, we're going to be using our ordered pairs here. And for this one, we're going to use Okay, so remember we're going from the original to the new. The new always has the tick mark, and on the screen it will be blue. So I'm going to go from k to k prime. So I'm going to write the ordered pair for k. So this is -2, +1. And I want to get to k prime, which is -1, +1/2. So I want to know what numbers I need to multiply my original by to get to my new. So I know that -2 divided by 2 gives me -1. I know that 1 divided by 2 gives me 1/2. So here my scale factor, because I'm dividing by 2, which is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So you can either write divide by 2 or times 1/2. Okay, a lot of times we'll use this one, the times 1/2, because this shape is 1/2 the size of the original shape. Okay. For this one, W is at -2, -1. And this works for any group of points. So if you choose to do point Y or point X, the scale factor will be the same for all of them. And we want to get to W prime, which is at -4, -2. So the way I get from -2 to -4 is to multiply by 2, and once again, -1 times 2 gives me -2. So here, my scale factor would be 2, and once again, for this one, my scale factor would be 1/2. Okay, so the last two problems we're going to do is here, it wants a dilation of 2, and about the origin just means it's going to be centered around the shape where we can double that. So here, V is at 0, 2, and I need to multiply that by 2. So 0 times 2 is 0, 2 times 2 is 4, so my new point for V is going to be right here. So that's V prime. U is at the point 1, 2, so 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, so U is going to be over here. T is at 2, -2, which when I multiply that by 2 gives me 4, -4. And then W is at -1, -1, which when we multiply by 2 is -2, -2. Connect those points. And I've got a similar shape, but that is dilated by 2. Now we're going to be cutting it in half, so we want 1/2 of each of these. So instead of -1, +2, it becomes -1/2, +1 for your K prime. L, instead of being 2, 2, becomes 1, 1. And then J, which was originally -1, -2, becomes -1/2, -1. And so our new figure is 1/2 of the original figure. So those are the 4 different types of shape transformations.